This sexy little box is the xTool M1, and it's the world's first laser cutter and engraver that can cut things like wood and also engrave on metal, but it can also do a special thing that most laser cutter engravers cannot do, which is that it can cut out paper, stickers, and vinyl decals like these. So this looks a lot like a Glowforge, and it competes with the Glowforge, but it also does all of the things that a crafting tool like a Cricut can do. So let's look at some of the things that I've been making. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, so one of the very first things I did since I got this machine around Christmas is I made these Christmas tree ornaments for my friends and my family, gave them out, we hung them on their trees. I've also made a coaster version of this. For Valentine's Day, I took some artwork that my son made for his mom and for his grandma and his nana, and I turned them into projects. So for his mom, we made this heart with the engraving of his design on it, and you can buy these shapes at stores, the hearts, but we just engraved the design and then cut the heart out on the same piece of wood. For his nana and his grandmother, we also made these coasters with the artwork that he made. This took probably like 10 minutes to produce on the machine. I also like to save time when I'm cutting things out, so I made this jig that I can lay down in the machine and I can produce 4 coasters at a time. This is the kind of thing I'll normally do for a commercial job. I'll make a jig so I can put multiple pieces down and engrave them all at once, but thanks to the camera in this system, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but with the xTool M1, the jig isn't that important. Thanks to the camera inside the machine, I can put down just row after row of coasters and lay things out in the visual design tool. I've also been working with my friend Mike, who makes cigar box guitars, and he's been making these reverberation sound holes by cutting them with a hand jigsaw, and I did this on the laser. This material looks like it's probably MDF, and it is a lot thicker and more dense than plywood would be, so it took a whole bunch of passes to do it, which is why the paper burned a little bit, but this is still a design that you really can't do by hand, and a lot of people would need a very high-end, expensive machine in order to do this sort of work. I've also been making these metal business cards for another friend named Mike, who is a real estate agent, and for his cards, I've been putting a QR code on this and the contact information for him, and it looks really good. For this one, though, I made a card for Darth Vader because I feel like enough people don't know who he is, and he might want to hand these out before he force chokes them. Speaking of Star Wars, let me show you the thing that I like second best that I've done so far, which is this laser engraving of BB-8 on this MacBook Pro. This one was a leap of faith because there's really no way to practice this and make sure that this is going to work. I did print it out on other materials and tried to line it up to see if it would work, but when you're doing something like aluminum, you really want to know exactly what the measurement's going to be for the output and the speed of the laser. So I did this cute little cat on the back, and since it worked, I flipped it over and I ran this design, and I'm really, really happy with how this came out. I'll put that over there, and now I'm going to show you my favorite thing that I have engraved, which is this cookie. I know you're thinking, like, why would you engrave something on a cookie? But it's actually a really cool thing for something like a birthday party, or maybe something like an engagement party where you only have to make a dozen or 2 cookies and you can put the bride and the groom's name on it. I just think it's cool, and it's one of the few things I've ever engraved that I can eat. Tastes a little bit like burning. If you're old enough, you'll probably remember this commercial for Reese's peanut butter cups.
Hey! Oh, hey, you got your chocolate and my peanut butter! Peanut butter on my chocolate. What? Delicious.
I've been thinking about that ad a lot while I've been using the xTool M1 because it's a mashup of both a cutter and a crafting machine. I keep saying to myself, you got your laser engraver in my vinyl cutter, and you got your vinyl cutter in my laser engraver. I mean, why just get a cutter when you can also get an advanced diode laser system that can cut out wood and engrave metal and happens to cut vinyl too? I think that most people will pick up the M1 as a laser engraver and a laser cutter because it's incredibly well designed and offers some safety and usability features that aren't found on the more typical open chassis laser engravers like the Creality Falcon 2. You can see my review of that here. But I think crafters will be drawn to it as well because not only can it make things like the Darth Vader decal, but it's also an engraver too. The listed retail price for this is $1,400, but as of this video, it's about $1,000, and it looks like it's been that price for a pretty long time. The xTool M1 is aimed more at the high-end crafter than the commercial vinyl decal shop or woodworking shop, and it's a very good choice for that segment. But that said, I can see a lot of wood shops using this for projects where they don't need a more powerful laser and where they just want to throw something down on the bed, use the camera to line it up, and then just start going. The retail price positions this M1 directly against the Glowforge Aura, which is $1,200, and that Glowforge model has a less powerful 6-watt laser, while this is a 10-watt laser. Then Glowforge jumps right from the Aura to the Glowforge Plus at $4,500, which has a 45-watt CO2 laser. That means it can do glass and it can cut through thicker material. So it kind of puts the xTool M1 right into a slot that the Glowforge lineup doesn't have. It's a neat way to compete with Glowforge without competing with Glowforge. Hold on a shot. Engraved cookies. Good industrial design is something I've always been drawn to and something that's important to me in a product, and the xTool M1 is a very well-designed machine. Its design takes the safety features and the functionality of the machine with the camera and the adjustable laser and puts it into a box that looks sort of like high-end audio gear or something that Apple might have made as a laser printer. As you can see, the M1 sits very nicely on a desk or a workbench. It's definitely a conversation piece, and product photos for the M1 show it on tables in living rooms and workspaces around the home. So I'd definitely be comfortable using this machine for cutting vinyl or paper in a living space and for maybe some general engraving. But for wood cutting and long engraving projects, I'd definitely put this in a well-ventilated area. And I really recommend using the 3-inch vent connector on the back of the machine to vent the machine out a window. The integrated fan and the print head and the fan to vent the unit is one of the best things about this integrated design of the machine. The plastic case isn't just designed to be attractive on your home office desk, it's designed to protect both the user and the projects. The xTool M1 will not operate with the lid raised. Most industrial lasers leave safety up to the users. Safety is built into this machine. In my recent review of the Creality Falcon 2, which again you can find up here, I mentioned how the aftermarket hood system is a must-have. That's because it prevents dust from going around your room, and also because it has a vent in the back that pumps air out of the enclosure. That accessory has a tinted plastic viewing port that keeps you from going blind if you forget to wear the dark green safety glasses. With the M1, you simply cannot blind yourself or burn yourself on the laser, and since the system is enclosed, you can't accidentally move around the material while a project's going. The M1 has just a single button on it, which is used to confirm framing a project and to start that project. Unlike many engraver cutters, you cannot start a job without pushing the button, and the button doesn't do anything when the top is raised. I nearly blinded myself when reviewing the Creality Falcon 2 when I hit the start button in Lightburn instead of the frame button, and the laser started up and started to cut a piece. So this safety measure is important, especially with the machine being used in a common area around the house. The xTool M1 has a USB port, but it can also be controlled over Wi-Fi. You have to set up the Wi-Fi when you're configuring the machine with a USB cable in it, but then after that, you don't need to use the cable. I design projects on my main Mac, and then I send them to the M1 over Wi-Fi, though I still have to get up, walk to the machine, and hit the front button. But the framing isn't really necessary on the M1. For things like a coaster or engraving something quickly on wood, being able to just align the artwork using nothing but the camera image shaves a lot of time off of each job. That's one of the main benefits of using this system. xTool also has an integrated material library in the designer, and then more libraries of materials on their website. They also have sample files available on the xTool project site, which is connected directly to the xTool Creative Suite. Some of the things up on the xTool site are just instructions on how to make a project, but there are also a lot of downloadable project files too, if you just want to download something and start going. I also like that I can save files directly to their cloud storage system. I've actually been using my laser cutter connected to a Windows machine, and so if I've been working on that file on my Mac, instead of just sending it over to the machine, I can also just upload the project to the Windows machine and then sit there and do all of my cutting process from that machine. One of the downsides of the integrated design is the difficulty in using materials that are very thick. On the higher end open design engravers, you can simply raise the machine up, put it on blocks or whatever, and slide some very thick material underneath it. That's a lot more difficult to do on an enclosed machine, although the M1 has a cool trick. You can remove the bottom plate of the M1 and slide materials under it as well. Thanks to the fact that you can remove the bottom plate on the M1, you can slide thick materials underneath it, and you can also raise it up on block. And the M1 has a cool trick. The laser head moves up and down based on the thickness, or really the height of the material, which it can measure automatically, which means it positions the laser head properly. You don't have to adjust it manually like those open design engravers. One thing to keep in mind if you're trying to do really thick materials is that this is the little cutter that goes into the system in order to do things like vinyl or paper cutting. This just goes in easily to the head in the laser engraver, and what you do is you just place it up there with a magnet and it holds it into place. The thing to keep in mind though is that when it's in the machine, it goes to here, which means there's about an inch of material sticking down below the head of the laser. One thing to keep in mind when you're laser cutting or laser engraving something that's thick is to take this unit out, because otherwise sometimes when the laser is close enough to the surface of what you're doing, this device, which is not being used, pushes the thing around on the surface, and it took me a while to figure out how to do this cookie. It's too bad you can't engrave milk. So the M1 has a fan on the top of the laser head unit, but it lacks an integrated air system. So an integrated air system just pumps clean air in near the laser head and it keeps it from getting dirty. This system's laser gets dirty much more often than a system with an integrated air system. The Creality Falcon 2 that I have reviewed has one of those systems as part of what you get when you get the engraver. This you can add it on, but it's not a default part of the package. Luckily, the software does notify you when it's time to clean the lens. For about $350, you can add an air assist pump, which is a good investment for anyone using the the M1 for more than just occasional coaster or decal cutting. But keep in mind, if you add that system, it makes this a lot more expensive and a lot louder because the air assist system is a compressor that runs while the prints are being done. You can also add a rotary cutting unit so you can cut on things like tumblers or rolling pins for the kitchen. Since the M1 is a diode laser, you can't cut directly on glass without some accessory materials, but the xTool does do a great job on tumblers, both coated and stainless steel. It doesn't come with additional feet like some of the open frame engravers do, but I 3D printed some riser feet for my engravers, which makes it really easy to raise up the units. And if you're in the mood to spend more money, there's a riser base that goes with the M1 to raise it up, but it's just as easy to make some feet out of scrap wood or 3D print something. For about $1,000, the xTool M1 is a great value if you want to have an all-in-one crafting machine. Since it's the only all-in-one crafting machine, it's a particularly good value. Obviously, it's not as capable at laser cutting and engraving as a larger open frame system with a higher wattage laser, but that's not really what it's designed for. As a cutter, it's not exactly as full-featured as the top-end Cricut or similar machine. But again, it's the only unit that combines both of those features into one device. And if you want to upgrade your laser power, xTool makes other units, including the $2,000 S1, which is an enclosed system with a 40-watt laser. This is a machine I would absolutely recommend to somebody who's crafting, and it's even powerful enough and fast enough to use in commercial situations. In the comments below, let me know if you're thinking of buying this system or if you already have one of them and what you use it for. I got a text message from your barista. They said that your almond milk mocha with an extra shot is ready and they would like you to come get it after you like and subscribe. For Dave Tries This, I'm David Schloss. Thanks as always for giving this a try.